Ever wondered why Americans call it soccer while most of the world calls it football? Well, buckle up, because we're about to take a journey back in time. This debate, as heated as a World Cup final, has its roots not in America, but across the pond. Yes, you heard that right. In Britain, back in the 19th century. You might be thinking, isn't football a British invention? Well, yes and no. It's true that the sport as we know it today found its footing, no pun intended, in Britain. But the terms soccer and football, they were both born there too. A surprising twist, isn't it? So, before we start pointing fingers and arguing about who's right or wrong, remember that both these terms have the same passport, British through and through. The term soccer isn't as American as most think. Back in the 19th century, Britain had two versions of the game. This period was a time of great innovation in sports, and the British were leading the way. They were playing two different types of football games: rugby football and association football. Rugby football, named after rugby school, where it was first played, was a rough and tumble game that allowed players to carry a ball in their hands. It was deemed a game for the rugged and the brave, a game that was as much about physical prowess as it was about strategy and skill. On the other hand, association football, often shortened to ASOC, was a different beast altogether. It was a game that focused on footwork and ball control, prohibiting the use of hands. It was a game of finesse and precision, where the players danced around each other, weaving and dodging, a ballet of athleticism and strategy. Now here's where it gets interesting. The term soccer is actually derived from that shortened form of association, or ASOC. The soc in soccer is a colloquial abbreviation of ASOC. So when the British were talking about playing a game of soccer, they were referring to association football, not rugby football. But wait, you might ask, where does the term football come in? Well, both association football and rugby football were considered types of football games because they were played on foot as opposed to horseback games like polo. So both soccer and football were used interchangeably in Britain to refer to what we now call soccer. As you can see, both soccer and football have their roots in the same place. It's a tale of two games, born out of the same desire for competition and camaraderie, but diverging in their rules and style. But no matter what you call it, soccer or football, it's a game that has captured the hearts of millions around the world. So how did soccer make its way to America? Well, it all comes down to the British again. As waves of British immigrants made their way across the pond in the late 19th and early 20th centuries, they brought with them their love for the game. But there was a little hitch. You see, Americans already had a game they loved, similar to rugby, that they called football. American football was a game of touchdowns and field goals, not of goals and penalty kicks. This presented a bit of a quandary. How could they introduce this new game, one with the same name, without causing a whole lot of confusion? The solution was simple: adopt the British slang term soccer. This allowed Americans to enjoy both their gridiron football and the world's football without any mix-up. So there you have it. The term soccer found a new home in America, and that's why most Americans call it soccer, while most of the world calls it football. But does it really matter what we call the game? Understanding the difference between soccer and football is not just about semantics. It's about acknowledging the global culture that surrounds this beloved sport. It's about recognizing that the same game can be perceived and named differently across the world, and that's okay. Despite our world being more connected than ever, these distinctions can still lead to confusion or even spark heated debates. However, these should be seen as opportunities for dialogue, for sharing our unique perspectives and for learning from one another. After all, isn't that what sportsmanship is all about? Respecting the game, the players, the fans, and yes, even the names we use. It's these differences that make the global soccer, or shall we say football community, so vibrant and diverse. In the end, whether we call it soccer or football, it's the love of the game that truly unites us all.